Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate and Stuff, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of real estate investing and the random stuff that makes life interesting. I'm John Whitfield, joined by co-hosts Brandon, aka Papa P, and from TED Sysops, and Carlos Zamora from InvestFuse and Carrot. How's it going, guys? How's your week been?
It's been good. There's a lot of things I could be grateful and happy for, but I'm a little congested right now, so bear with me if I'm snotting and sneezing. But it's good to
Spring
be.
has come to Miami, huh?
I don't know. I was like sick when I got back from Tampa, and it went away the last week, and now it's kind of back. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I could use like
Knock on.
maybe an Aldi steak will get me right if I get some grass fed butter and a steak.
You see that post I sent you? It was
Mm.
about like they did a grocery haul, and then like he looked at like the Aldi and he spent like 100 and some bucks, and it was like legitimate food. And then like there's other people who do it, and, other posts I've seen where it's like from Whole Foods, a Publix, a Giant, those stores, and like it's nothing. And then Aldi's you're getting all of this like quantity. I mean, it's really
Are
eye
they buying the
opening.
same items, or are they saying this is what you can get for $100 at these stores?
Yeah, they're not buying that because again, it's not the same post. I'm saying in comparison, I've seen an Aldi post where they did a grocery haul and you see the dollar amount they've spent, and then I see other people posting from other grocery stores where they so no, it's not a dollar. No one's comparing. They're not the same people or anything. I am comparing in the database of my mind as I'm watching this, and I'm like, yeah, dude, yeah, bro. Meanwhile, Puppies is up. The other thing I was gonna say is, so I know like Tesla missed its earnings, but so I'm sitting here and I watch this like all day, and I've noticed the majority of these large, so not just banks, tech companies, a lot of these large companies, they are all recording record beating earnings per share, revenue increasing.
Wait, Tesla isn't, but everybody else is? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Tesla's there's a whole thing going on with Tesla. That's irrelevant to what, you know what I mean? I'm just saying I know Tesla's not, but like a lot of the consumer based and tech based companies, bank based, so like all the things where they're making money off of us everyday people, not
All had
business to business type
great
entities.
quarters.
Great, phenomenal. They're doing excellent, ad money's up. But then I found it funny. What was it? Freightliner. I believe it was now there was a large freight company, Yellow Freight or something. Pardon me for missing the name, but they are reporting horrible revenue. They're losing contracts, and so what they're saying is when the freight industry, the trucking, because trucking, when I say freight, I'm speaking of trucking. The trucking industry is like a leading indicator for consumer health and the health of the economy. Because when people are canceling orders to be shipping products and all that, the logistics are going. The economy is coming after that, basically. So when you start to see a large company like that, which was previously doing great, and you see these trucking companies starting to report poor earnings, that's a sign that in time things are going to come. So I found it funny. Here's this trucking company doing that, but meanwhile, the Metas and Googles and Apples and all these companies and the Bank of Americas and all these companies of the world and the pharmaceuticals, they're all like, oh, bro, we beat earnings estimate. We're doing great. And I was like, that's very telling.
Interesting. I'm losing. Okay, yeah, no, this is what we're talking about. I'm losing track of what's happening in the week. So we have this post from David Buckles.
Yeah. So then this is where I was getting
one?
into. So it's in our little thing. I took some screenshots of it where like he's saying, well, you got to start from the other one. We're talking about listings, so it starts at the very last one, the little table, and then it kind of goes forward from there. He's just saying in his market, David Buckles is from Florida, and he's saying like in his market, you gonna share the screen?
Working on it, getting there.
He's showing the quantity of listings and activity in the market, right? And he's basically saying that, yeah, let's take a look at like closed sales down, cash sales down, volume down, time to contract up, time of sale up. Everything is going in the reverse order of what it should be essentially. Go to the next one. So closed sales are down 10%, pending sales down 5.4%. It's
The
just,
month supply of inventory is significant.
oh yeah, like look at that.
52%.
Inventory is going up, and he's not the only person. I still talk to, but even though I'm not flipping anymore, I still talk to a bunch of flippers, and they're all experiencing the same thing. Now, obviously, I still think it holds true. Certain locations don't
Yeah.
matter. The house in the nice area I always talk about, 1.6 something, and went over list off the market within a few days, 1.765. It like went 100 and some $1,000 over what it was listed at because again, like rich people still got, and that's going back to that statement about the earnings that I was saying. Rich people still have money.
Mm-hmm.
They're making money no matter what right now. It's the rest of the lower class, middle lower, that's not. And that's selling their houses, right? That middle class America trying to sell their suburban home, and they're seeing their homes sit longer. Buyers aren't moving as fast anymore because of interest rates. So go to the next one. And here's the kicker is because of the Fed's not cutting rates. So he says in the beginning, I see a lot of people chasing prices and forcing deals right now, right? Because they gotta buy homes to a lot of these flippers, they gotta buy homes to make money. They're not saving money. Quick money is quick money in, quick money out. Inventory of supply is big time over the last year, up 45%. The numbers always tell a story. With Fed rate cuts nowhere in sight, mortgage rates are staying elevated, inventory stacking up. And so that's the thing. A lot of these companies and guys or people were expecting rates to go down, which was going to drive sales again. But then Jerome Powell came out and said that, he doesn't see that we're ready to see rate cuts, that he still thinks we need to stay elevated in order to maintain control on inflation. And that goes hand in hand with commercial real estate because a lot of these
Inflation goes
guys,
hand in hand with commercial.
the Fed rates. So
Oh, okay.
because of inflation and the Fed not cutting rates, a lot of these guys have their balloons due and people are defaulting. And then that hits the regional banks. And then the regional banks affect people like us because a lot of us bank with the regional banks and we go to them for loans on our cars, on our houses. The local banks, that's who we want to use. And those ones, when they're holding a lot of the local debt on the big commercial stuff, and they're saying that because the Fed's not cutting rates, those guys aren't going to be able to refi out, and they're gonna hand over the keys essentially. So I'm tying multiple things together here: prices, earnings report, supply in the real estate industry. You know what I mean? The Fed rate cuts, inflation. You tie all that together, and I'm pulling it from all these different things I'm seeing, and it's like it's not looking good. And you go to the next one, which again, Wall
Not
Street
looking
pushes
good really
rate
quick,
cut.
just as what, as far as real estate prices?
The economy in general.
And economy in general, okay.
Because real estate, the economy, the consumer, they're all inextricably linked, in my opinion. If you don't have money, you don't have money. You're not buying a house. You can't buy a house if you don't have money. Like that just doesn't work. Credit card defaults are up. Amex is suing people is up. All these things are
How does
happening
Amex
now.
sue people?
So Amex is one of the few companies that doesn't charge off their debt. They will actually go after you for their debt. Where a lot of other companies, so Amex is when Amex starts suing people, there's something going on. Where everybody else, they'll charge it off to a debt collection agency, which is again the collections, but still it's a different beast, right? The way that's handled legally. So again, this is saying that we're not going to see any rate cuts to 2025, which goes against the conventional wisdom of during an election year, the current political party, whatever it is, will always try to make the economy look better. So he's going to, like Biden in this case, and even if it was Trump, they would all do the same thing regardless, right? Let's see what we could do to juice this up to make me look better.
Right.
And now they're saying that's not going to happen until 2025 probably is what everyone's betting. And that goes against what everyone expected to have happen to them.
Interesting. Is there one more?
Yeah. So this is just a strategy he's been saying, and it's not like he invented it, but he's underpricing all of his stuff to get into so in order to avoid houses languishing on the market, he's underpricing all of his stuff to create multiple offers because then he wants to see who the strongest one is, and then he'll take that offer. A lot of people don't do this strategy because they're afraid if they list it at 280 when it's worth 300, they're just going to get 280. But he's spot on in a market like this. You go 280, you'll probably get 285, 290 because someone will say, "Wow, that's a discount compared to blank." So that's a great strategy as a little tip. Like I thought it was interesting. He's really upped his game on his posting over the past year. I
Who
found
is this
it
guy?
interesting. David Buckles. I've been following him on Instagram. He's in Orlando, but he's a wholesaler turned flipper. Maybe he's hybrid now. I don't know. But with the beginning, I made this mistake, and other people have too. Is like you're chasing deals to make the money, and you think that the markets doesn't affect you, but it does. So, and like wholesalers, we have to sell deals to make money. If you don't sell deals, you don't make money. So you're trying to push them down the throat of the flippers. And if the sellers aren't willing to budge to where it makes sense, again, you're going to have people trying to take down bad deals.
And start coaching.
And, yeah, going to coaching, 100% going to coaching. It's easier to make money in coaching.
That's fine.
I just thought it was interesting, man. I was
That
like,
is.
I've seen a lot of people posting about it. And then again, there's stuff going, multiple offers. Like I said, there's stuff going off the market pretty quick. Like it's just a give and a take. But the majority of your average home,
I need to work on pulling some investor fees data on this, but I have heard rumblings just from people that, sales are slowing. They're not selling. They're still getting deals under contract and still getting them at a good price, but they're not able to sell them as fast and the quantity that they have experienced.
Who's saying that?
Some of the investors I work with, just chatting with them. Been doing some work in our transaction system with Investor View, so I've been talking to people about transactions. So a little buzz that I only just started hearing like the last 2 weeks. So I want to pull some data on it and see if I can prove this with data, but just a couple combos.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Super intriguing.
It's 100%. I mean, and it depends on what market you're in. On the mobile home park side, I see some stuff sitting. I see people not getting the prices they wanted. I've seen sellers pull stuff off the market because they're not getting the prices they want. So like, again, I think we're back to where it was before in residential, which is like the unrealistic stuff.
Interesting thing though is that I feel like we've had this conversation
about residential. Yeah, we had it about residential where it's like realistic stuff will still sell. The unrealistic sellers prices, that's just going to sit and languish where before they were getting picked up. But like I was chasing a deal. So where I'm buying my parks, like there was another one in the town north of it, and it was a phenomenal deal. And so I trying to get a hold of it listed on like a Wednesday, maybe Tuesday, and I needed a day or two to put my shit together, see if I could do it. And so starting Thursday, I was trying to reach out to him. No answer. Friday, no answer. Then Monday came along, and I was trying to I was like, okay, I'm going to try to get him again, calling his office and emailing, and then I saw it went pending. So he must have put it pending and then just wasn't. And I get it, dude. You're an agent. You don't want to respond to me if you already have a buyer on the line and you're going to double end it, like whatever. So that was why. So he probably had that under within 24 hours of listing it. So again, there's stuff moving, but then there's also stuff not moving. So and that one had seller financed attached to it. So now you can start to see like different, if you have creative finance, low entry points, those things will move faster than just straight cash purchases.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because like I was going to say, I feel like we've had this conversation that we expect to see a slowdown like 6 months ago. And there was definitely a little bump, but then I feel like did we get back to normal, or was it just a new normalcy? And now we might be dropping again and have to accept a new normalcy.
Yeah, dead cat bounce.
I'm sorry, what?
A dead cat bounce is a saying in like Wall Street where it's like even a dead cat bounces when you drop it. So like if something's going down, like a stock or something, it crashes, and then when the cat hits the floor, it'll bounce a little bit, and you think it's back alive. But nah, bro, it's just a dead cat. It bounced and then it falls down and it's dead. Like no, don't get fooled by the dead cat bounce. And I'm not saying that, but it's like, yeah, you're gonna have drastic downs, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, people are like, oh, what? Like this is so good, and they're like, oh, let's buy. And then shit doesn't go right for the economy, and then it keeps going down. Now, had Fed come out and said, yeah, we're cutting rates, we wouldn't be having this combo. So there's
Right.
stuff that you can't predict. And
Yeah.
so now rates are going back up and they're like 7% again, where before they were kind of easing back down into the sixes. So, prime's like 8 point something right now. And it's like you can get a mortgage
They
at
haven't raised
7.6.
rates though, right?
No, they haven't raised them. But again, so the rates that we talk about usually fluctuate
Right.
a few points higher for mortgages. And that's the profit they make, right? The interbank lending and then what the mortgage brokers get. So those can always go up and down. Here or there, like 0.0, whatever, a few basis points. But I find it interesting. I'm just saying, I see a lot of things correlating for the brokenness of America.
Yeah.
And then we just send 90 fucking billion more dollars to Ukraine.
I saw that.
Fuck
That
that.
was a little.
Like,
I mean, I don't want Putin to rule Europe
but
either.
I don't
but
give a
that's a lot
fuck.
of money.
That's not our country. It's not our country, and let's be honest, it's never gonna fucking happen. But we're the only ones sending fucking money. It's like, if you don't want Putin to rule Europe, you know who should probably do something about it? Fucking Europe. Like, well, Germany, like, you're pretty close. Like, you might want to pony up some money. And people gave Trump a lot of shit for that because he was like refusing to do stuff. It said everyone needs to pay their share. And then obviously his enemies were saying like, wow, you're so brash and brazen and rude to other countries. Like, how dare you say that to them? And now we're sitting here shelling out billions, and America's like, Hawaii's still not fixed. Like, homeless is a problem. So now in order to fix homeless, they're making it illegal to sleep outside. And now
Where
the
are they going to
government,
sleep then?
bro, it doesn't matter. In California, they're trying to make it illegal to sleep in public, and then somebody suing them or fighting back saying that sleep is a basic essential need, and that would be equivalent to saying you're not allowed to breathe in public, which I thought was a very wise argument. But it's like, and I was thinking, I'm like, wow, $90 billion could really do something for homeless people. We could build some shelters with that money. Like,
Sure could.
Yeah. So
that's surprising. California was the first one to do that.
I'm pretty sure it was California. I thought Florida was thinking about it too, which wouldn't surprise me if DeSantis would pull some move like that. I don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. I mean, I love DeSantis, but some of his stuff is like, I know he's
publicity
politicking.
Stunts more than
he really is like politicking. Trump, I feel like, is just going after shit and just doesn't give a fuck. But DeSantis, I feel like
he's like
it's
cunning...
like a lot of theater of like what he's doing is strategic for like, okay, how do I get elected to president? These people like
100% what's been happening. I called that like 3 years ago. I was like, we're just Ron DeSantis' playground for getting to the presidency.
Yeah. I never felt that with Trump. I felt like for him, he's like, this is what I don't like. I'm going to fix it. DeSantis.
Yeah, but he never had a governorship he might do the same
100%.
things if he was a governor.
He maybe, but I'm saying if DeSantis became president, I feel like he would be doing the same stuff. He'd be like, okay, like, what do people want me to do so I get my second term? I don't care if I agree with it. Like, just where do my numbers go?
Or if if it makes sense for the country or the state or the people in it. It's just something I could say on the campaign road and get people pumped up.
It's just wild. And then, like, so we're sitting here talking about David Buckles and what's happening to the economy. And then I heard Tucker Carlson say, and he goes, it's funny that we call ourselves, and see what you got. I want your opinion on this. He's like, we sent another $90 billion to Ukraine. It's funny we call ourselves a democracy because 70% of Americans have said they don't agree with sending any money to Ukraine, but yet we do it saying that the people want it. When the people are speaking out saying they don't want it, how is that a democracy? What are your thoughts on that?
I would, in general, agree with that statement. There's always a problem between like the rules and things that get passed and what public opinion actually says about them. And the way the democracy is supposed to work is that you put people in office that represent you and vote
Yeah.
on what you want, right? But it doesn't always seem to work out with that. My question would be, though, where's his 70% number come from? I don't doubt it, but
Again, yeah, I don't. We're speaking, and he didn't shoot out a fucking asterisk with a footnote of the source of it.
Then what did it pass in the? I heard a snippet of it that the new Speaker of the House is on the chopping block because he supported the Ukraine bill. But what
100%.
did it pass with in the Senate?
I don't know what it passed with. I do not know the numbers for that.
If it was close, I mean, I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Here's the other thing that passed. So there's a couple things politically and legally I wanted to talk about today that are happening this week. So not just that. While you look that up, let me see this. So the other thing, non-competes are now illegal.
Yeah, isn't that intriguing?
That is. Did that come out of left field, or was that a thing that's been?
I didn't know that was a thing, and it's like that's gonna.
It felt like it came out of left field yesterday when I saw it.
Like, think about that for like wholesalers.
Yeah.
Like
Any business.
And any business, but sales is one of the ones like what we do. One of the things, and even if you're not suing, the threat of being sued for competing, breaking a non-compete may stop a lot of people, from leaving a company to go and do it. What does that do to you? Now you can brag and say you have an abundant mindset, but now you're sitting here saying you literally are training your competition when you're talking about a sales environment. Every time you train somebody, they now, regardless, could take everything you taught them, all the tools that you use, and say, I'm going to go replicate this.
Mm-hmm.
The wholesaling industry, I think, is in more of a threat now than it ever was. I don't think there's many people who sued for non-competes, but again, I think the threat of suing have kept a lot of that from happening. And poaching, too.
Yeah.
But
does it overall do good for like the economy if everybody's able to start their own?
Nah, bro, that's a
business.
That's the fucking dumbest thing ever.
I did think that their statements about how this will cause so many more startups to happen to not make sense because those startup money has to come from somewhere.
and not just
and they're not going to fund a direct competitor company that's doing work.
Let's say there's no startup money, John. Let's just say startup money is not a thing. They can get the SBA loan. Okay. What's the stat? 80-some%.
More businesses will go out of business.
So 80-some% of businesses fail in the first year, and out of the other 10-15%, they fail within year 2 to 5, and then out of that, the next of them fail within. There's only a 1% left after year 7 or 10. Mm-hmm. So really, all I hear is you're just setting more people up for failure and broken dreams because they're all gonna go try and it's
interesting, right? Because there's this conversation of the entrepreneurial mindset in America, and if everybody's made to be an entrepreneur, and they're being encouraged to pursue, like you're saying, false dreams, which I do think is a real thing. We've talked about it before. You look into somebody's life for a glimpse on Instagram, and you're like, I want that. I could do the same thing, and you don't get to see the full picture of how they got there, what it took. So on and so forth. And there's just not a lot of reality in the display of, what a successful entrepreneur / business owner is. So, I would agree with you. I think it would be setting more people up for failure. But then again, how many people are not doing things because of non-competes? I feel like a lot of their stats are just made up. Things I was wondering
who pushed this, who got dicked over so bad that they're like, we need to fucking fix this. Right. Where did this come into play? Because I feel like non-competes, and they don't even hold true for the upper echelons, right? So there's still caveats to it of high level executives. Yeah.
So it's
Mhm.
like it's not even. It's more of like what I took from it was more of the lower end employees now like saying, "Ha ha! I can leave and create a competing product or get in the same industry, whatever it is, whether
Yeah.
it's sales,
Yeah.
tech, anything." And I'm like, like
I I would imagine it would encourage more people to switch jobs inside their same industry to seek something that's better for them more than it would encourage people to leave and start a new business. Like if I'm an engineer at Boeing and I have a non-compete that I can't go work for any other aircraft, I think it can encourage that kind of thing to happen more, and for those types of people to, seek better benefits, seek better pay. But yeah, I don't see it like necessarily increasing the amount of startups like
I
they're
wasn't
talking
thinking about it from like hopping from one company to another.
I
I
didn't
was
I didn't
thinking,
think about that either, and I see that as a thing. So poaching, yes, I could see, man, no one's gonna leave like, oh, now they can. So maybe
Mhm.
that does help the economy. I guess I looked at it in my, small little world, right? Because, just real estate. And I was like, my first thought was wholesalers. I was
Mhm.
like, wow, like there you go. Like people are just gonna be like, F it, like I'm just
Let
gonna
me go
go.
start
Like
my
you
own
can't
business. How
you
many of
can't
them
get me anywhere.
make their employees sign non-competes though?
I mean, I
I would
did.
say a fair amount
I
Really?
did. I
for
mean,
acquisitions
you know
manager.
the story when I
You'd be
had
like talking
someone
to
leave.
sellers.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
I
that's
was
right.
ready to sue somebody, and I had the
Mhm.
attorney, and like I discussed it, and then I was like, man, and he said something. He was like, "You do know," because I also have a cousin who's an attorney too, in a different practice type of law. But he goes, like if you sue them, they need to have something for you to take. Does he have something for you to take? And I was
Mhm.
like, well, not really. And he's like, okay, well, you could teach him a lesson.
But
But
you're just gonna be spending a bunch of money and not getting
yeah,
anything in
like,
return.
well, no. And then
Mhm.
again, you're non-compete. I mean, again, who pays the lawyer fee? So there's a lot of stuff in it, but like, what are you doing it for, too? But if we're talking about a performer and they go and they directly compete and they're making money and they took half of your book of business when they left, now you're talking like, how does that protect somebody who's like, I'm going to pour my all into John. I'm going to train John, give him all the tools, open up this world to him. Me and John are buddies, and he's, my clients, everything. And John leaves, starts his own. Now, that's different than just the wholesaler example, going and trying to do his own thing. He's not really stealing my book of business unless he
Yeah.
steals leads. That's different. But John goes and creates a competing firm of some sort, and he's great. So he immediately is making money. Yeah, I'm suing John now for a
Mhm.
non-compete, right? Because John's got something to take. John is
Mhm.
obviously great at what he's doing, but now I can't do that.
Mhm.
Like that bothers me as a business owner. Like I have no repercussion for that.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's some other legal stuff in there that allows you to write some other type of thing that you can't poach. And that's the thing is, with legalities, like there's always some type of
To word it around the way that you
yeah.
want. I'm sure from this will come a new type of thing that doesn't break the
It's not
law.
even
But
a
it is,
non-compete. Yeah, it's some type of
yeah.
like promissory something where every employee has to sign it. Like I'm sure there'll be something that'll beat around the bush.
Yeah. And I think you were saying, Carlos, it's already being like argued against or sued, or I can't remember now.
The
Is
non-compete
it?
stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Maybe
think
that was
so.
Rachel.
I just saw it yesterday. I didn't see much follow up from it. For me, it just kind of felt like it was out of left field. But and again, I wasn't really thinking of it like hopping from one company to another company. More so people like leaving and starting their own thing. But yeah, it's interesting.
So Rachel read about it and she said, I guess the FTC is already getting sued about it. Some other government agency is saying they don't have the authorization to do that.
I was wondering that too, how the FTC of all organizations were going to be the one to do this. It was like my questioning of like, yeah, I mean, but again, it's kind of like the TikTok ban. I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of this stuff, like the TikTok ban was just recent. Biden passed it into law, right? And my daughter brought it up to me and I just laughed and I was like, that's not going to go through. Like that, what do you mean? I was like, they got 9 months. You don't think between now and fucking 9 months? I said, but it looks great for him. Like he
Right.
looks phenomenal right now. He got China. China doesn't even effing own it, okay?
Someone's going to
China
clip
has
that
such
also. Someone's going to clip that and say Papa P saying Joe Biden.
oh yeah.
Take
Well,
you out of
like,
context.
China doesn't even own it. Majority of owners are from the US and other large institutions and investment funds and firms. The company ByteDance owns like 20% or something. It's like China barely owns anything. America owns more than it than anybody. And I
Mhm.
feel like it's like this political targeting, and it's like,
Oh, it's horrible. I
you're
don't
telling
get it. I
me,
don't understand it. Like same thing with Ron DeSantis and like changing the age that you can get signed up on social media platforms for. Like
that's actually really I agree with that.
I'm not
I don't
saying
think
it's
that's a bad
I'm
thing.
not saying it's a bad idea, but I'm saying like there's kids are just gonna lie about their age.
Yeah.
What's the point of this? Like
Well, that's so hang
it's a
on a
political
second.
stunt. Same thing as going
So
after TikTok.
it depends on how they do it. So like Pornhub did it, right? And there was a huge kickback in what was it? Texas and I'm gonna say Wyoming. I'm not sure. Arkansas, Wyoming. There's a couple of these like rural conservative states that did it, and you actually have to show your ID. They want it's like a know your customer. Yeah.
In those
So
states, they require you to like
in
show an
those
ID.
states, so I was reading
Oh, that's
about it. They
interesting.
want you to actually put in your drivers. So now think about it, and we're getting way off topic because we're not here trying to talk about smut, but it's like, yeah, think about that user. Like first they're anonymous, and now they're like,
Right.
we got to verify that you're 21 or whatever age it is. Put
Oh
in
my
your
God, that's
ID.
funny.
So like if it's 16 in Florida, I don't know what the age is. I'm just hypothesizing. But
It was
like if it's
14,
6,
or they tried to
is it?
get 16, but they
Because
took it
if
down
they
to like
make you
14 or
show your
something.
ID, then 100% like they could do that, right? Like show me that
But
you have a
that's not what the
driver's
law says.
license and you could do it. I don't know.
Because
I just think
14-year-olds don't like have a 15-year-old doesn't have an ID yet.
my daughter did. You can get just a regular ID. She had to have one. She
The
started
way that
working.
they wrote it into play is because they can't like they can't put restrictions in place based off of IP address. The way that they wrote it
Yeah.
is that they can go and charge a $50,000 fee to any of these companies that allow somebody from that state of that age to go on. So
I mean,
like
that's
it's
not
not
true.
forcing Facebook to change like
That's
how they
100%.
authenticate.
They 100% made Pornhub do it in those
No, I
states.
know.
I
I'm
think
not
they could do
arguing.
it in
I'm not
these
saying about
instances.
that one. I'm saying the Florida
But why
law
couldn't
about
Facebook do it then?
that's not the law though. You're saying Arkansas passed or whoever passed a law
Yeah.
that
Oh, you're
forced
saying
Florida
that the law that was passed
yes
is not the same,
is
that they're
not
not
like that
requiring
at
that.
all. It's just dumb.
Yeah, and
Is my
let's just
point.
be clear, although I support this, I also feel that the real problem is
Is
probably the
parents.
parents. Yeah. So like, yeah, I support it. I honestly think social media should be banned from a lot of kids,
Oh, yeah, my kids won't
100%.
be on at that age.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is dumb.
My daughter wasn't. She didn't get a cell phone until she was driving. My son, like we limit like my kid, the littlest ones don't get
Oh,
to
yeah.
watch TV. Like we just ban it all.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're older, like that's fine, like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But 14, I feel is a decent age. But the government, I don't
How
know.
young do kids get cell phones these days?
Bro, I
Elementary
battled
school
it out.
age. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
my daughter was begging from when she was like old enough to beg. Okay, all
Mhm.
my friends. I'm like,
Gosh.
well, sorry, you got shitty parents. Like I don't fucking
Like
know.
kindergarten? Are like kindergarten kids going to school with phones?
Yeah, my
I mean, I would
mom,
imagine.
she's just
That's
retired from
crazy.
elementary school, and she's like, "Yeah, kids have it all the time now."
Bro, it's
If you're in
bad.
middle
And like,
school or a high school without a phone, like you just look dumb.
yeah, I mean, I battled that struggle. I think my daughter got one when she was turning. I think she was 15 or turning 16. Now she had an iPad at home that was on my plan that I allowed her to do stuff with, but like so she could message from there. But again, it was an iPad, and so you couldn't just take it out of the house type of thing and
Yeah.
talk to people.
That's what my kids have. They have a thing to talk to people here at the house, but they don't leave the house with it.
And even my daughter now, like I'll randomly take her phone. I mean, and just be like, let's go through your messages. And so like
When she
it's
turned
like
18, I bet she's counting down those days.
she's already 18. She turned 18 the other month. But like that's the rule, right? Like, and I haven't had to do it in a while. But from the time there was years where we would sit at the table and be like, phone, and she wasn't allowed to touch it. It'd just be random. And if she tried shutting anything, she'd get her phone taken away. I go, let's see what you got. search history, and again, I never caught anything bad. She's a great kid, but I think it also set a tone. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's interesting to like I've talked with Shannon a lot about this of like how do you promote good behavior? Like you gotta walk a line between like restrictions and checking versus like you can't do 100% trust. Like that's not parenting. You have to like walk a
but
line.
so like
It's
what I
fun.
did was, it's like it kind of goes, you shouldn't be doing anything on your phone you don't want me to see. Simple as that. And if you are, then we have a problem. So you shouldn't mind handing me your phone. And if you do, then we gotta have a talk. And it's like, and I track her location, which is more of a safety thing, but and then I'll message her. I'll be like, why are you at Starbucks right now? She's like, stop stalking me. I was like, why are you there? Like, you don't need any more coffee. But yeah, so these things going all the way back. So these bans, right? Like, these things are passing. And here's the funny thing. I mean, we all know, like, I lean very conservative Republican, but there is a Republican senator, I believe, who 2 weeks ago bought Meta shares and then voted to ban TikTok yesterday or the other day.
Yeah, interesting.
$750,000 worth of Meta shares. 2 weeks later, he's voting to shut down. And this is one of the reasons why I am not a fan of this, and why I always say for Trump, I'm like, if you look at every other president and a lot of these congressmen, even Republicans, Democrats, they're all the effing same. They promise, John, and it goes back to that 70% thing about like sending money to Ukraine, and you're like, well, they should be voting for the people. The only people they're voting for are themselves, because I bet you if we looked at the numbers, because what a lot of people don't understand is that 90 billion doesn't go to Ukraine. It goes to our defense contractors. And I bet you a lot of these guys have stock in these contractors. So they give money to Ukraine. Ukraine goes, thank you. Here you go, Lockheed. Here you go, Boeing. Here you go, General Dynamics. Like, I need all of this stuff from you. And then the senators sit back and go, well, that just boosted their earnings. And that's how Pelosi and all of them go from being worth six figures to $100 million on a six-figure salary.
I'm with you. I think that's a horrible part about our economy. Like, and it goes into, what are they called? Lobbyists as well are also a problem, as well as like what these politicians.
You shouldn't be allowed to have a trading account. You should have no retirement. You get a fucking salary even after you're done serving. Why do you need an effing retirement account? You should be banned during your time of service from ever trading. Ever. Nothing. No one in your family should be allowed to have it. See how many of them want to run then.
The United States is just too big.
We'll get them to
That's
sign
what I
some
think.
non-competes.
But ultimately, John, the only solution is a destruction of the current system and the restarting of a new one. Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's too big. We are too big at this point.
Oh, yeah. You look at other places and you look at like countries in Europe. They've been around for longer, but whatever. They have more social elements where pay is higher. Everybody gets vacation, parental leave. And it's like, wow, that sounds great. But they're the size of like Rhode Island.
I know. Everyone's like, oh, we got free healthcare. I was like, all right, Maryland. Like, good job, Delaware. Like, okay. Like, bro, we got 51 of you motherfuckers we got to worry about. And it's like,
we're just so freaking big.
And
it'd be great if we could be like those kind of places, but
we could, John, and that's where I come.
It would require a lot of change.
It would, because with all the money we've sent, I fully believe like we could have rebuilt Hawaii. Like, there's so much that we could have done for our country, the rail systems, like everything. We could have put that money to use.
Regardless of sending money to Ukraine, how much money we just put into defense, period.
Yeah, but again, let's not say about one. I can't speak to that, but let's not say about true defense of our country and what our government buys for itself. I'm just talking about the money we send everywhere else is all I'm speaking to. I have no facts. I don't know what that money is used for. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of bloat there, but the money we send.
That Pentagon lost how much money? $700 million.
Oh yeah, dude, they just keep losing money. Meanwhile, the IRS is tracking me for $600
Weird.
in PayPal. Yeah. They're like, "Hey, Brandon, we noticed you took some money in PayPal. You didn't report. We're coming after you." Like, thanks, man. Thank you, PayPal.
Anyways, there's problems that maybe in our lifetime we'll see solved, and I would like to see solved. But
Well,
until that
the
day,
last-
we will talk about them on this podcast.
The last thing that affects real estate people is Biden's proposed tax hikes. 44% capital gains. Now, again, this is on mostly the high earners, but you're a business owner, you're making money. Like, you know where you could get more money from, John? Instead of taxing me 44%?
Corporations, but who wants to touch the corporations?
No, not even that. Ukraine.
Oh,
Israel. Like, we could stop giving everybody money and like, bro, you got money! You don't need to take any more from me. Like, you got it. Like, here you go. We found it. And I don't know.
Corporations are a problem too, though. Like the amount of money that Apple, Microsoft, Amazon all have overseas and that we can't touch or tax is a bit ridiculous. Anyways.
But again, if that, like, if that doesn't, if we've had none of that to begin with, right? We don't need that. We're literally, and it's not affecting us. What I'm saying is the money that we're printing that's causing the high prices for us, that we're then sending somewhere else to then go back to a corporation for them to make more money, to make the rich people rich. I'm not talking about Apple hiding money in an offshore account. I'm talking about that's not affecting our inflation.
I get what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but also if we weren't sending that money, we'd still be at a deficit. So
yeah, that's true. 100% true. But how about this? I'd rather be in a deficit and look like a fucking utopia and be like free healthcare. John's grocery bill is $10 because it's all subsidized. Like, rents are subsidized, and we're all walking around on 20-hour work weeks. America's got Social Security fully funded, retirement accounts funded, pensions. Teachers are making more money. Cops are making more money. Firefighters are making more money. Then, like, John, yeah, you know what? That deficit, I'd be like, well, that was fucking worth it. Like,
it was worth it, yeah.
Now it's like you say we're collapsing, and the only solution that they have for that is let's take more money from people. But then what do they do with that money? That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to go after the corporations. I hope to be one of those corporations one day. I just am saying, like, I don't think you need to do it at the expense of Joe and Mary down the road and, like, then take their money and say, all right, there's somebody over in Ukraine who doesn't have a retirement account. We promised them we would fund their retirement, so we're going to send it to them. Thank you, Joe. He's like, fuck, dude, I just worked 80 hours for that.
Oh, God.
So, don't you find there's been a lot in the last, like, week or two? Like, there's a lot of stuff happening in the last week or two that's been passing between TikTok, the proposed taxes, right? Like, now the non-compete thing. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's like, dude, it's a wild ride this year.
Stuff's moving.
Election cycle's heating up.
It is, really. Interest rates not getting cut. House is sitting.
Do something else.
So anyway, yeah. So that's that. That's all I had to say about Pulse of the Week stuff.
Let's pull up this Bob Sleeves post and get back to some real estate stuff. Does anyone have the link to that? Is it somewhere else?
Yeah, it's in there. Yeah, I totally forgot about that post. We got time for it? Do we got time for it? Are we pulling only an hour, Epi, this week?
How long are we at? We're at 48 minutes? Oh. Might not have time for that. All right, what's our other topics here?
Is John frozen or is that me? Am I frozen? Maybe I'm frozen.
I'm not frozen. Right? Everybody's fine. Well, Bradley, let's talk about net worth. We can put it in for 10 minutes here on that.
Can you hear John? Can you hear me?
He disappeared. I can hear you, Carlos.
The FTC may have cut Papa P's internet.
Oh, God, that's funny. Did we post Brad Lee's post somewhere? Or
I'm unsure. Papa P, can you hear us or no? No, I don't think he can hear us.
he's just moving around. I'm trying to click on these things. Okay, yeah, here's the post. All right, I'm gonna play this.
Cool.
Can you guys hear me?
Now we can.
We can hear you.
All right, here we go.
Big deal. $2, $3, $4, $5 million. It's not what you think it is. So it's like, yeah, I'm a millionaire technically. I could take it, but then I wouldn't be able to pay payroll. I could take it, but then I wouldn't be able to afford all the things that I'm doing to make the money. So $1 million is more than likely, when you first get it, not even yours, it's the company's, and you need it to operate. Again, the first million, it's like, nah. Then the second million, then the third million, then the fourth million, kind of the same thing. You're just reinvesting, and you're like, wow, it's not as much as I thought it would be. Man, it doesn't allow me to go ham on things. Now, if you get $5 million net, liquid, after all expenses, really not that much still. 10 million is literally what most people think a million is. You got to get to 10 million to actually have what you thought a million would do.
Yeah.
And then you have to get to, 50 million to get what you thought 10 million would do. It's $1 million, big deal. 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, so
Oh, yeah.
I need some clarification on what he's saying. I mean, I get the general sense of it, but he's saying that 5 million net. So
Is the
in
start of
profit?
saying, yeah, so saying you're making 5 million net in your business or in your personal net. Now you're starting to talk that you have money where you could go do what you want. He's saying you make $1 million, $2 million, like you can't go ham on anything. You're not, if you do, it's irresponsible, right? You can't just go out and make $2 million revenue and go, man, I'm buying a house and a Lambo and a boat. That's ham, right? Not you buying one Rolex conservatively, but going
Right.
ham and saying, I'm going to buy all this stuff. You can't do that, because if you run the average percentage, right, and you say $2 million, well, really that's 600K in profit
Mm-hmm.
after all expenses. 600K, I'm sorry, you buy a Lambo, you're done with like what, 50% of that money for
Yeah.
what, a vehicle? Then you have your carrying costs and your lifestyle costs. Like, that's not a lot of money to go ham and buy luxury items. You're going to look rich and be
So
broke.
he's talking about the essence of, like, if you want to look like these people,
No, I don't think he's talking about
what you would
looking.
need to
He's talking about,
spend on. Because, like,
yeah,
if you had a 600K in profit
that's nothing.
and you're not living like a superstar like Cody Sperber on that that clip we played a couple weeks ago, isn't that still a lot of money?
No, he's saying 600K point blank is not the money that you think it is, and will not allow you to be bragging that you're not a millionaire. You're not a millionaire. Just because your company makes $2 million, $3 million, you're not a fucking millionaire. No, at 5 million, yeah, okay, there you go. But you still can't just go and spend it, because you made enough. So even at 600K, right? That's enough to break even, John. All of your business expenses leave you 600K. What about reinvesting into your business? How much do you need that year for that? Well, that's
A
gone.
lot. Yeah.
And now you got nothing. So that's where he's going. People don't think of that, and it's like, he's so right. Like, and it's like, for me, when I was younger, I battled with, like, I always wanted to be a millionaire. And I never considered myself a millionaire, no matter how much real estate I owned, because to me, it wasn't money. It was like, yeah, I keep buying these houses and rentals, and like, yeah, the values keep going up. And it wasn't, and that was pre-internet, right? And it wasn't until like the Instagram, the guru days, where everyone's like, oh, I'm a millionaire. I'm like, so that's all it like takes, is you just have stuff and you're like, I'm rich, bitch. But like, you can't literally, and trust me, I've had my ups and downs, and when you're on your downs, you're not a millionaire.
No.
You can't just start like liquidating everything and be like, that's $1 million. No, it's not. You don't have access to $1 million. If you can't get it within 24 to like 72 hours, you're not a millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion.
I would agree
Like-
with that. Yeah. I think a lot of people like, I have $1 million in real estate. Well, okay, but how much debt do you own? If you sold those $1 million in real estate, what are you going to be left with? Like 150K. So you're 150K er, not a millionaire.
Yeah. And it's like, and let's just say, man, like maybe, yeah, I get what you're saying. And you even have $1 million worth of real estate. Do you subtract debt from that? Don't you? I don't know.
I
Like
would.
what constitutes, I would too, but I'm saying what constitutes you saying you're a millionaire? My company's worth $100 million. Fuck you, it is, dude. Do you have a check for $100 million fucking dollars right now? Did you sell it? It's not worth that. It's not, like, until, and everyone says that, but in reality, we're in such a niche type of industry. Until your company has an offer on the table that's being signed, like, your company's not worth that much money. And that's what he's saying, is like, you're not really the millionaire that you think. In my opinion, you're not really the millionaire you think until you start taking home 5 million. And I would agree with that. Like, I feel like when you personally are netting 5 million, that leaves you enough to grow, hire, expand, whatever, and still have maybe $1 million for your personal self to invest, to save, and then to go ham on stuff. Then he says 10 million is really what everyone thinks $1 million is, and I would say that's very true.
Buy a
If you
nice
say you're
boat,
buy a
second
house,
home.
stack some away, expand your
Mhm.
business, you have plenty of money to do what you need to do, and then have a cushion.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't go ham at 600K, John. I'm just saying, like, you'll be in the same position next year, wondering why you didn't make more money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I agree. It's interesting too, like how much, like, yeah, everybody's like, I want to be a millionaire, and now we're like here in 2024, and we're like, oh, $1 million's not going to get you what you think it did when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I told you we watched The Italian Job, right? And they
Yeah,
were stealing
yeah.
$35 million for like 7 dudes on the team. And,
Yeah.
you know, my daughter's watching this and she's like, that's it? I'm like, well, honey, she's like, they're only going to get 5 million each. I'm like, well, I was like, this was 2004. Like, $5 million really did buy you all of those things. And they, you know, they listed all the stuff they're going to buy. And I was like, now 2024, you
Not so
might
much.
be able to get a house in Miami. Like, maybe you could buy half a condo in New York, but like, yeah. So like, that dollar amount has really switched. We did a thing. Did you guys do this? So like, when we were little in class, I think it was 8th grade, they put a bunch of magazines, right? And because there was no internet, and they were like, spend $1 million. Bro, and like, we were like, we had the Clippers, we were buying cars, and we had a poster board, and we're gluing it on, and we're like, this, and we're cutting out cars, boats, and like houses. It was really hard to spend $1 million. I remember it. Like, you're like, oh, fuck. And you're like 8th grade, so you're like, what are you buying? I'm buying N64. I'm buying, you know what I mean? Like, and it became really hard because like things weren't expensive back then. Nowadays, you'd be done with, you'd have a house and a car. You'd have a Cadillac and like a house in your average, and you'd be like, well, it's all gone.
Yeah.
$1 million isn't what it used to be.
It is not. It is not.
But yeah, so I feel like that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
You know, going from that, but I think in this industry, a lot of people inflate what they're worth.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
It's easy to have a talk and say, I have this many doors, or I'm worth this much money, and not put the 7 asterisks after that.
Like, what
it always sounds better when you say it, right?
Yeah, I just don't know what the rules are. Like, what are the rules?
There are no rules.
Like, yeah, I mean, and that's
somebody says they're a millionaire. Like, how are they going to prove that? I mean, mostly now it's like through what you can put in a video. So there's been tons of people out there that are faking it, right?
Yeah. It's like you post a check that you made 50K, but like, well, what was your marketing costs? And like, how big is your office? And these are things that I think. And it's like, so like, how many employees do you have? Like, how much of that 50 do you really need? Who was it? Was it you, John? Somebody I was talking to shit, maybe it was anyway, somebody I was talking to was like they're doing like 100 some, they need to be making about $100,000 a month to break even. That's how bloated their wholesaling organization is.
Wow.
Like they do a bunch of deals, like crushing it. Like, dude, they're making six figures every single month consistently, but they need to be pulling in $100,000 a month for all the employees, overhead, offices, marketing costs, everything that they do. Like that's a heavy thing for a wholesaling industry, for a wholesaling space to do. That your nut every month is $100,000 and change. It's like, so you show me that you pulled in 200. Well, that's, you still only made $100,000.
Maybe we can call up our buddy Ron DeSantis and ask him to pass a law that forces everybody to put the reality statements on their social media posts. Just a thought.
Like, how would you do that? Like,
You can't.
what do you fact checker? Like, you know how they did with the COVID, and it's like
Yeah.
if you want to report somebody, and now we click that button and report our favorite influencer. I don't believe they actually closed that deal. Fact checker. And then it's like, I don't believe
An auditor,
that was
like
net.
a social media
I don't believe.
auditor, shows up on their
They're
door.
like, hello, Brandon, you recently posted a check of $50,000. We need to verify that was net and not gross. Can you please send your expenses for that deal? Be like, oh shit, they got me. Like that would be clutch,
funny.
dude. That'd be clutch. And people would stop posting real fast.
Oh yeah, and then you'd find out who the real people are to learn from, real fast.
Yeah. So I was.
Anyways,
I was doing this thing where we were trying to find a title company.
Mm-hmm.
So like I knew some people were posting checks. So I was like, cool, at the top of the check is going to be the title company in that area, which is a little tip for anybody if you need
It's a good way
title
to find them.
company. Yeah. And I was like, cool, like I know guys in this market, they're always bragging and posting checks. Dude. What I didn't realize when after I was screenshotting and like looking at them and sending them to my TC and like I'm sending them off, they were the same fucking check. And like
Yeah.
I didn't notice, and like they were like weeks, months apart, and like three or
That's
four of
funny.
them, and I was like, oh, those aren't different title, like that's the same check,
The exact same check. That's
date.
funny.
And I was like, you motherfucker, gotcha. I was like, I got you, bro. I know what you're doing there. Same check, just getting posted. But you don't pay attention to it, right? Because you're not going back checking people. You just keep seeing a check getting posted every week or every month, and you're like, oh, cool. Like, oh, cool. Good business. So anyway.
Cool, guys. Well, great week talking about some random stuff.
Mhm.
We'll see you all here next week. Same time, same
We'll see.
place.
We'll see what gets passed by next week's episode. Probably more stuff
Yeah, that's
coming
right.
down the pipeline.
More stuff for sure.
We'll see what it is. All right, guys. Have a good one.